everybody, I hope you're well. Please excuse the cap. I fancied a break in the garden to do a live. It's just so much nicer outside. Whenever I get any kind of chance, I go outside. Now, today I wanted to talk to Sylvia Garcia, oh yay, who is right here. Now, let me see if I can call workshop coming up on Saturday morning, which is all about building strength. And it's with Sylvia, and it should be an amazing workshop for both teachers and for students to teach us all about the importance of strength. Now, let's see if I can get her to join. Let's see if the miracle that is technology and Instagram is going to work. Not seamlessly right now. Hey,
hello.
There you are.
I'm here. Hi.
You are here. That is super. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I was just saying, I am taking a break and going outside, cap on, and just enjoying the early summer.
Yeah, nice. Ah, good. Well, you look like you're in a much sunnier place now. I'm currently in my Reformer Pilates studio. And basically what
Wow, that looks very impressive. So
it's so cool.
Are you focusing on strength work today?
Well, I've been teaching Pilates all morning, so yeah. But essentially what's going to happen in the workshop on the weekend is like the home version of what you can do on this machine that you don't need equipment for. So exercising the same parts of the body, getting strong, because you know we're not all very close to a reformer, and it's still nice to be able to do similar things and similar movements. So yeah.
Is that your little one in the background?
No. No, that's nothing to do with me, I'm afraid.
Just the noises of life in a studio. London life.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. So it's the exercises that you can get on a reformer machine. Now that's pretty cool because people, as you know, spend quite a lot of money and effort to go get those machines. And there's a reason, right? So I'd love to just talk through some of the benefits, some of the reasons why people do make all of that effort to go on those amazing reformer machines, which we can see in the mirror behind you. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, sometimes people think they look quite scary, but actually they are designed to make mat Pilates easier.
Right.
So all the stuff that you learn, you have resistance, you have weighted kind of springs and stuff, and it means that when you come to any mat-based practice, whether it's yoga or Pilates, that you've already got that kind of precision and that knowledge in your body of where to hold a plank, how to engage your back, how to engage your glutes.
Very cool.
And very fun.
and
Sorry, say that again, that just cut out.
Why is it that we want to do those things?
Why
is that important?
Why do we want to get strong?
Yeah, right. You talked about engage your glutes, engage the hamstrings, engage your core, have the right position for a plank. Why?
Well, because you know, I think I'm addressing mainly the yoga crowd here. We do these things, but we do them not always in the right place. We often, in a yoga practice, we focus so much more on mobility rather than stability, which is good. Like, it's nice to get flexible, but you have to do both. You have to get strong too, because otherwise, if you just keep getting flexible, you're going to end up damaging your body. And, you know, it's something that I've seen and that I've experienced in like 20 odd years of practicing and teaching yoga, that actually this kind of glamorization that we have of being flexible isn't that sustainable or healthy for the human body. We need to be strong, we need to get flexible, and finding a balance between the two is important. So I saw that somebody had written in a question saying, but I don't want to get bulky, so why should I do strength work? But firstly, I would say to that, it takes quite a lot of effort to build bulk.
Yeah.
You don't just hold a plank and suddenly you're like, oh my God, where are all these muscles? It's very much more a gradual thing. And of course you don't have to build bulk. You don't have to practice any movement that changes your body in a way. If you start to notice that you're not happy with it, you don't have to continue. But you can definitely be very strong without having a lot of bulk. And if you look at a lot of gymnasts, especially like younger athletes, they're not necessarily hugely bulky, but they're incredibly strong because they've got that balance between the mobility and the strength. And that's really what I want to promote. And the reason we're doing this strengthening workshop is because in a yoga practice, we're already doing the flexibility, we're already doing the mobility, you know, sometimes to crazy degrees, like putting legs behind the head and all of that kind of stuff, which is not in my personal practice, but you know, that side of things is already so taken care of that every time I've been injured as well, I've been sent by physios to do Pilates or to get strong. It's never to get more flexible.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. So the injury prevention is something that really, that appeals to me. As again, I've been a lifelong yoga practitioner, and I've had all sorts of stuff. I have had knee injuries, and I guess it's all usual kind of stuff, but it's things from overstretching and also doing yoga very quickly. I think that can also lead to a lot of injuries, and being a wee bit competitive. I was at one of those very large workshops that you can get. It was in London town years ago, with one of those very exciting, sexy yoga teachers come to town. And it was a huge sort of 90 people doing a very fast vinyasa class, which was super exciting. And we had lots of adrenaline buzzing around the room. But that's where my knee ligament was just clacked, and it's never been the same again.
Right.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like a lot of those fast vinyasas, fast moving, big stretch classes can be really dangerous.
And ultimately, it's not worth it. This is not why we practice yoga. It's not to kind of push ourselves to the brink of injury. Like, far from it. It's easier said than done, because you know, we're all humans, we all practice, and there is an ego, because of course there is, we all have one. And so it's very easy to get distracted, especially when there are loads of people in the room who are doing stuff. But I think it's really important to remember that every body is unique, and every body has different needs. And so if you go into a massive room with loads of people, just don't look around unless you can genuinely be inspired and not be like, oh, okay, I'm going to give that a go.
Right.
Try and focus on your own body and what it needs. And what I've seen over the years in yoga is that the majority of the bodies in those rooms need strength. Another reason for this is because, you know, in terms of movement practices, we always gravitate towards something that we are naturally good at. So in yoga, we see a lot of people that are hypermobile because, you know, initially you're like, oh, great, I can do all of this.
I'm good at this.
Yeah. And it's great. And, you know, it's nice to feel like you're good at something. Of course, that's something that the body continues to want. But especially for those of you who are hypermobile, I'm one of these people, it is so important to be strong around the joints and to not be hanging into the range of movement that they have, because although in the short term it might look great on Instagram, but in the long term it's not going to be sustainable, and it could lead to things that are not ideal. So I think that's it. It's like as an injury prevention for practitioners, and I just said also it's a useful thing for other yoga teachers to learn, so that they can then go on to teach their students the importance of doing this sort of at the same time that they're, you know, after they've done their flow or whatever. It's like, now we're going to also do these moves, right? Absolutely. I think the more we understand about movement, the more we understand about our bodies, the more we can kind of help people who we see doing things. And, you know, the more information that we have, the better. No, absolutely. And in terms of the workshop, because the image of it is you doing
what most people would think as, and I would think of as a pretty scary pose, right? It's like one arm upside down, legs in splits, like, okay, so does that mean that that's what we need to be doing to join the workshop? Or can my mum, who's 80, can she join? Or is it somewhere in the middle?
No, Vera can absolutely join. I would love Vera.
Vera, welcome.
Absolutely. Okay, firstly, I didn't select the image. I sent over a bunch of images, so you know that was the one that was chosen. It's actually not as hard as it looks. It's not easy, but it's essentially a Vashisthasana. It's a side plank, but instead of my foot being on the floor, it's on the wall, so it looks a lot more dramatic. That being said, we're not doing anything like that on the
okay, I'll take your word for it not being so dramatic.
I mean, the drama will come with my jokes and, you know, the flair, but physically, not so much drama. Just really looking at like fun ways to create movements which strengthen the back of the body. So the whole of the back, so the muscles of the back, which we neglect so much in yoga practice because, you know, there's not very many times where we're in extension. For the most part, if we are, it's a back bend, and then usually we just relax and try and flop into it because the ego's like, go further, go further. So actually a fully extended and engaged back bend is not going to be your full range of movement. And again, going back to the ego, it doesn't tend to like that. So we're going to kind of look at just understanding firstly where these muscles are, how they feel when they're engaged, and then looking at loads of different ways that we can recruit and engage them so that we can do a practice, even if it's a yoga practice, knowing that when we're moving through our sun salutations, there's a bit more precision put into it. Somebody wrote in and asked, you know, I don't have much time. What are the kind of best things to do to get strong? So what I would say is that when you go to a movement practice, this workshop will give you so much information. And if you're like, okay, I've got 10 minutes, I'm going to do back strengthening, you can pick 3 or 4 exercises and maybe repeat those. You might mix it up and add in upper body, lower body. We're obviously going to add in some core because we're talking about stress, and because I teach Pilates, and because we need it. But you know, I really do believe that any movement practice should be fun, and that goes for like yoga. I think it's very easy in yoga land to take it really seriously, and so we start to place so much importance on it that we start forgetting, actually, we used to love this and it used to be something we did for fun. Same is true of Pilates or conditioning, or you know, everything that we do with the body. And when we're doing things that aren't that fun, because you know it's not all fun, then I'll tell the appropriate jokes, and it will feel like it's fun.
And also doing things together is always a bit more fun, because obviously we've got loads of your lovely on-demand classes, but sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, doing those glute practices on your own, it doesn't always feel like bags of fun. But I think if you're doing it with other people and you can see the community, and you're doing it with, you know, like you say, you're giving jokes, you're giving feedback, and you're able to see other people falling and flailing and being human, it makes it just so much more of a fun experience.
I totally agree. It's very difficult to motivate yourself to do conditioning at home on your own.
It's hard.
It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, I mean, but
it is something that I do, and I enjoy, but the conditioning exercises aren't, you know, it's like getting that motivation to do it is literally just because, okay, I know if I don't exercise my glutes, my body is going to suffer, kind of thing.
And also, if we go back to the glutes quickly, it's so important to prevent things like lower back pain. I think that was another question that was written in, and somebody said something about experiencing lower back pain in yoga. If we get strong in the glutes, then that's going to help to create so much support when we're doing things like our sun salutations flowing into up dog. I see a lot of the time people in relaxed glutes in back bends, and it's just what puts all of the strain in the lower back. So yeah, that's one of the big reasons that we will be looking at strengthening the butt muscles. Yes.
And of course, giving us a great butt is just a little sideline in that.
Yeah, there are side effects.
a nice side effect. But actually, I think most of us are fairly weak in the glutes.
Yeah.
And the yoga practice doesn't really work on that too much. And I know that, I mean, I personally spend a great deal of my day on my backside, and that certainly doesn't help.
Right.
So I think the kind of sedentary lifestyle that most of us have, and even doing things like walking, it doesn't necessarily get those, you know, the side ones. They're really, mine are really weak.
Yeah.
And when they're weak, my lower back starts to hurt. Yeah.
So the yoga practice, you know, all we love doing for some reason is forward folding and stretching the glutes and stretching the hamstrings. And
Right.
there's so little that we do that actually shortens and contracts these muscles. So, yeah, it does feel like the glutes get weak quite quickly. I've heard somebody was like, oh yeah, I love yoga, but it gives me a yoga bum. Which is a term I'd never heard before, but they're like, when I do other exercises, I can see the muscle definition, because if I'm stretching it constantly, it just disappears.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what you said there about walking, the glutes are what helps the hip joints to rotate. So when you're turning the legs outwards, that's the butt muscles that are doing that. So if you're walking, you're not getting into the muscles that are rotating, because you're just going forwards and backwards.
Yeah.
The leg. So yeah.
Yeah.
I will.
So it's a really hurt, and we really need.
Yeah.
And for sort of older, and I'm going to count myself in this, for people who are getting older, I think we often don't think about strength so much, but actually, as our bodies sort of age, keeping strong, I think, it becomes more crucial, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's so important, and you know, I am a big believer that it's never too late to start.
Yes.
And so it's also important to not be like, oh well, I think I'm too old for this because I'm not able to. Like, just start doing it, and then talk ourselves out of it.
Yeah, nice. I like that. And yeah, never too late to start. My mum is always my role model on that. She started yoga at age 70, and now she's just had her 83rd birthday. So yeah, she's really like doing very, very well with it all. But interestingly, she's also discovering at this age now that after a decade of stretching, she's now on the Pilates, and she's on the bar and on the strength work, because a decade of stretch without strength is not good for the body.
Nope. I've been banging on about this in my yoga classes for like 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And I have always sneaked in Pilates into all of the warm-ups that I do. One time I had a class, and during the warm-up, one of my students was like, is this a Pilates class? And I was like, shh. It's yoga, but it's movement, it's functional movement. And so I really I teach such a hybrid of all of the skills that I've kind of developed over the years, that actually I wouldn't really label anything that I do as strictly one discipline, because I actually don't think any of these disciplines are complete. I think they complement each other so well, and it's really important to kind of pick the best bits of all of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it seems to be what all of the sort of more senior teachers are now doing, those teachers who've been teaching sort of 20 odd years, and a lot of smart, younger, less experienced teachers are doing. It's kind of doing that somatics, I suppose, isn't it? It's somatic movement with strength, with stretch, with functional movement. It's the movement that makes us feel good and free and joyful, and and I was going to say, and we're still breathing mindfully, and presumably for you as well. Is the breath still part of your practice?
It is, but I was talking to a student this morning in one of my Pilates classes. It's the thing I find the most challenging as a practitioner, because in yoga, there's a specific way of breathing, inhale, exhale through the nose, and Pilates is in through the nose and out through the mouth. And I do both all the time. I do yoga, I do Pilates, and so I genuinely still find it confusing after like 20 years, more than 20 years of practicing both. So Yeah, it is tricky. My main thing is that understand that the breath, whatever practice should be, the exhale should connect to your abdominals in some way. So in yoga, it's Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha. In Pilates, it's called your powerhouse. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Every exhale is connected to this part of your body. And for me, that's where I try and focus on. Because there's a lot of information, and it does come down to the breath, and it's such a vital part of these practices. But I don't believe that one is correct and one is not. I think they're both different, and they both have a lot of value in what they do for that practice.
Jumping
totally between the two is tricky.
Sorry. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And it also makes sense that I guess it's so long as breathing is part of the practice, it kind of doesn't matter what the breath is, so long as we're breathing, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at any elite athlete as well, they're breathing and they're really focused on that as part of the movement. So there does need to be a connection between movement and breath.
Yeah. Oh, well, nice one. Well, Sylvia, I'm really looking forward to Saturday. It's going to be really, really good fun. We always have a real giggle in your classes, so it's going to be lighthearted. We've had tons of sign-ups over the last couple of days, so it's going to be a nice full one. But I know that lots of people aren't able to make it live. They'll just be doing the recording, and that's always a good option. So if people can't make it live, it's this Saturday morning UK time. I think it's 9 till 11 a.m. But yeah, if you can't make it, you'll get the recording if you register. And it's also pay as you feel, which is our new sort of scheme, which is basically just to include everybody. Like, no matter how you're doing right now, sort of financially, because now is a bit of it's a tough time for loads of folks. So I hope that's not going to be a barrier for anyone if it's pay as you feel. And that's the idea, is kind of just make this really inclusive, accessible, learn these skills, have a load of fun, join in with the community, because the Modern Life community is a particularly, I think that we're very friendly and welcoming and non-judgmental, and you definitely don't need to wear fancy yoga gear. Like PJs is perfect.
Can I be in PJs?
Yeah. I only ever practice in my PJs nowadays.
Nice. Well, if anyone has any other questions, please send them over, and we'll answer all of those as well on the weekend. And really looking forward to it. Really
looking forward to it, Sylvia. You take care. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining everybody. Much love. Bye.